Hi everyone, it's Diane with SewBatik, and today we are going to talk about border batiks within our rayon collection. Before we get going on our rayon batiks and the borders that we have, I want to do a little bit of housekeeping from a couple of Fabric Fridays previously. One that I want to share with you are specifically related to the linen, our batik linen. And in that session, we asked for suggestions on future colors or motifs or things that you would like to see in our batik linen collection. And I really thank you for all of your suggestions, and I want to share those with you. And every single one of them makes sense. And now we have to just sort of figure out what we're going to do with our future collections. But we have a few hand-dyed shades that we don't have a coordinating motif. And that was the first thing that I think many of you jumped to, which was great. And so our azalea, our tuxedo, I'm looking over there because I can see the fabric, our true indigo and bright purple, none of those have a motif linen that coordinates with them. And so that was one of the very first and most common suggestions, was a red motif, a bright purple motif, ruby red for the holidays and gold for the holidays. And that was specifically for home accessorizing, like with napkins and tableware. So that portion of our like SewBatik home is what we call that. So that was really very fun to see that. Also, more solid linen for slacks and jackets. Because right now our solids are basically the black and the true indigo. Other colors are, and I'm just going to run through these: deep eggplant, burgundy, chocolate, taupe, dark olive, which would be gorgeous, and of course a hot bright pink. And we don't have any of those, and I think those are wonderful suggestions, and I really appreciate every one of you taking the time to give us those suggestions. The other one was from last Fabric Friday. I did not get our little PDF download on the connection of that video until today, and actually yesterday, so I feel bad about that. But definitely we talked about in that Fabric Friday our fall shades of nuance gradations, and the gradations themselves change in color intensity from light to dark, salvage to salvage. And one of the things that I always like to look at these fabrics for is you can cut them apart to get 3 to 4 individual shades within one piece of fabric. And I just simply put together a download of how you can convert our gradations into individual color shades to fit some of the quilt patterns that are on the market. So definitely jump back to that, download that PDF if you'd like that. It's also on our website, so it's an item. So it's in any one of the nuance gradation collections that you would see. You'll see that item as well, and it's a PDF download. So those are the two housekeeping things that I wanted to share with you. So let's get started on our rayon borders. And you're gonna see behind me all of these garments on mannequins that have utilized the border batik, and how impactful I believe a border truly is to a garment, whether it be a simple tunic or a top or a jacket, a kimono, whatever it happens to be. It really adds a lot of life because of the design that's inherent in the fabric itself. And so the first border that we designed, Bruce is like amazing when it comes to these designs, is one that we call Durham Dreams. This is the shade of azalea, and I'm going to try to hold this out so that you can see the design from salvage to salvage, okay? And so the intent of this one is that it looks like Durham Dreams meaning wheat, Durham as wheat. And so this is the stalk of the wheat and the Durham Dreams here, and then a very loosely tossed motif into the hand dye portion of the fabric. And one of the things that I thought I would do today is share with you the dimensions of each section of the border. And the reason I want to do that is it really comes in handy when you're planning a garment. For example, this is the Carpe Diem Tunic by Fit for Art. And she took, this is Durham Dreams, and this is the Night Shadow colorway. And what she did is she simply took this layout, started at the hem, and worked her way up using this motif as the main portion of the tunic. And then, so that stops right here across your high bust area. And then she flipped it around, because do you see here? And used the remaining portion of this design going down the sleeve into the cuff. And it is just a really beautiful way to make this tunic stand out by the design that's in the fabric itself. So think about these measurements when you are planning a project where you want to use something like a border batik. We're not all the same height. The garments aren't all the same length. And so it really comes into play when you want to decide on the length of a garment and how these borders, because they're each a little bit different. I have 4 different borders, how they're all going to be positioned on a garment. So on this particular motif here, this, the stalks that are down here on the bottom. Now, our fabrics, remember, are 45 inches, so everything has to total 45 inches. So this is about 6 inches here. And then we have this really tightly packed motif in here. And I'm going to reference my notes, but this is about 10 inches. And then we have another 10 inches of loosely tossed motif, ending in about 18 inches of the hand-dyed portion of this fabric. So the hand dyed almost takes half the fabric, but not quite. So you're getting more of the motif, less of the hand dyed in this 45-inch wide fabric. And I don't even know how many different shades we have available in this particular motif. I'm not going to go through each one of those, but I will show you towards the end. We're going to do a little bit more of a fashion show of some of the garments that we've made with this, so you can see how they've been positioned on the garments themselves. Okay. And the next border I'd like to share with you is called Downton. And this is, I'm going to sit down and hold this out. This is the shade of Gecko. It's a green, olivey green, with a beautiful blue, and this really matches either the twilight blue or the night shadow that we have. Beautiful blue going throughout that motif. And this fabric has different measurements, so it has a different placement. What do I have back here? I think I have this jacket. We'll show you that in a minute on how this was put together using the Downton border. So this one has far less hand-dyed section here, and I believe this is only about 9 inches from the selvage. A loosely tossed portion of this design, which is about 17 inches, and then we jump down and have about 19 inches down to the other selvage. So much more motif than hand-dyed here. And so even if you have a long garment, you really don't see as much or any of the hand-dyed if you want to start with this down at the hem. The next border is called Riope, and this is more hand-dyed than border. This is the twilight blue version. And I'm going to get close on this one too, but all of this is hand dyed. And then the border measures about 14 inches. I'm standing on my tippy toes here. So I'm going to step back here a little bit. And so it really runs across the very bottom of this fabric, or that selvage of that. Now we have this available in several shades as well. And this design got us to the next one, which is what we call the Riope double border. And also the same color families of this one, but this is twilight blue again, so you can see the difference between the single border and the double border. So the double border has, as it quite implies, a border on each selvage edge. This was actually very fun to work with, because if you have more, actually, let me show you. I think I did it on this one back here. I'm going to move this around. Let me bring this one forward. Oh, not too far forward. This is the double border. So this is the schoolhouse tunic, and one border sits down here at the hem of this tunic, and the hand-dyed portion is here, right in the center, up to this sew line, and then this entire section of the body, okay? And then we turned it over and used the second border to run along the edge of the sleeves. So you can use the entire, and then it ended up being part of the facing too. The border did. So you can use this on both sides, and you wouldn't even know that it came from the double border. So there's a lot of different, and I think this was the same thing. This is a Batik pattern, and one of the borders ran all the way along the outside of the top. This is a really, really fun top, as well as all the way along the bottom of the sleeve. So this is Batik 6486. And then the center portion of the border, right in the center where it's hand-dyed, that is running all along the top bodice of the garment and the top portion of the sleeves. So you use every inch of the fabric. It just depends on where you're placing the border versus the hand-dyed section of the fabric. Now, I also want to share with you, so on this one, I forgot the measurements. So on this one, it is 14 inches of border on either side, and the hand-dyed running through the middle measures about 16 inches. So these are almost equal thirds going across the 45-inch wide fabric. Probably the easiest way for me to share each one of these and how they differ is to also show you them in a kimono. Our easy rolled edge kimono, I think I make a garment out of this every time we have a new motif, simply because it's a really, really quick way to show how it looks in a garment. And this is, again, going back to the Durham Dreams, this is the Durham Dreams. So the hem is one selvage edge going up the back, and see, it's so much motif that it nearly covers the entire jacket. And then it extends where the hand-dyed portion of this fabric then is the sleeves. So the front and the back are the same, and the sleeve is the hand-dyed. So that's how that long piece of fabric is used in a kimono. And this took 1.5 yards. The Downton, and here's an example of the gecko, which I showed you earlier. Since that motif is even higher and takes up more of the width of the fabric, You can barely tell on this jacket, this kimono, that there is hand-dyed fabric at all, or a hand-dyed portion. So again, I started with the hem, and then it just went all the way up to the back of the jacket here. Starts with the loose design, and then the very edge of our sleeve is the hand-dyed portion of the fabric. And again, this took 1.5 yards. And the last kimono I want to show you is, this is the Riope. And I'm trying to think if this would have been, yes, this was the double border. So here's the jacket. And the sleeves have the border on them as well. So this would have been the double border side of the Riope. And this is the shade of Aegean blue. I really love this. And again, 1.5 yards. So those are some quick examples of each one of our border designs. And I'm not going to take you through each one of the color combinations of each one of those. We have a button below in the description to go into the collections for each of those 4 borders so that you can kind of see the color range of each one of those. And then I'm going to have a little cheat sheet as well to show you how the inches and how much of each of the motif and hand-dyed portions run across the 45 inch wide fabric. And I think that will be very helpful when you're doing your planning as well. So let's take a few minutes and I'm going to show you some more of these really, really fun garments and share how we use them on each one of the garments. These 2 garments that I want to share with you really quickly really show the motif and use the full width of the Durham Dreams border very, very, very well. This is the Willow tank dress, and both of these garments are the Willow tank dress, and azalea, and this is the color lake. And you can see the motif probably better on the azalea, but the motif starts right here, right in your midsection. And then this pattern has about a 2-inch overlap. The flap that's here, this is where your tank top would stop if you were making the tank top version. And so it takes up about 4 inches of your fabric and then drops down all the way to the hem at the selvage edge of the motif. So this does use all 45 inches of the fabric. You lay out the pattern so that it starts at the hem. You join your tank top right at that position. And then there's a little bit of a facing here that you'll have to cut out of the bias portion of the fabric, but otherwise that is a perfect way to use the fabric on both of these garments. I have a couple more of the Durham Dreams that I want to share with you next. Both of these garments are the Durham Dreams in the shade of True Indigo. And this dress is the Recolita dress by Itch to Stitch Patterns. And the top bodice portion to here is the hand-dyed portion of the Durham Dreams. And this actually was not orchestrated. It was just amazing how it fit the design of the fabric beautifully. And so I didn't have to do any adjusting as to where I stopped the bodice and how long I made the garment. But if things are laid out this way, without doubling the amount of fabric you need, the length of the garment can't really be longer than 45 inches because that's the width of the fabric. And so this just turned out, I think, just beautifully. I really love the look of this dress. And then the same with this jacket. This is a Simplicity pattern and it's 8059. And it just has a simple tie in the front. And this does not have a seam. So again, I made this as long as the fabric would allow me. So this is close to 45 inches. And the sleeves, I always really try to get the sleeves to match the motif going across when I have the fabric to do that. And so that's what I did here. So we have our sleeve going across, and then the back of this jacket has a portion where there is an elastic casing for 1 inch wide elastic to give it a little bit of detail in the back without too much play running on this rayon. And so it's just a beautifully designed pattern. Simple, there's a simple facing inside to finish it off, and that's it. So again, these are the Durham Dreams in true indigo. And I think I have 2 more garments I want to share in the Durham Dreams. The next 2 are also Durham Dreams. And again, I must use azalea a lot. So here is another azalea. And this is a tunic. And this is, again, I wear this tunic a lot. And it is a new look pattern, and it's 62.92. And much like all my other creations when I'm using borders, I really like matching where I put my sleeve and how it just extends the border all the way around the garment. And I am going to turn this around so that you can see the side. The side on this one is longer in the back than it is in the front. And so I started with the look of the back and then finished the placement of the fabric for the front to line up so that the motif, again, goes all the way around the garment at the same depth. And this jacket this is the Simplicity 8192, I think it is. I'll make sure and put it in the comments below. But this is the front, the sleeve is actually, there's no seam on the sleeve itself. It is just simply, not even a raglan sleeve. It's just a 1-piece sleeve and bodice. And then it has a flounce that goes all the way around the front and back of the jacket. It's just a simple facing. And we extended the Durham Dreams border all the way around to the bottom. And the top portion met where the loosely designed and tossed motif sits, with the hand-dyed portion making up the top portion of this jacket. And I think it's just a really great way to use one fabric to do what the pattern seems to think you need 2 fabrics for, which is a different flounce than the top of the jacket. So that's another beautiful way to use the Durham Dreams. Earlier, I shared with you several different Riope garments, both using our single border and the double border. But this dress, this simple pullover dress, really, I think was probably one of our best sellers when we came out with this garment fashion duo, as well as we did a video on how to make this McCall's 8053 dress. And it has darts. It's just a simple A-line dress style with the Riope running along the bottom hem. And it's just a simple short sleeve garment. And pull it on. This couldn't be any more comfortable than this particular dress. And it really shows what a simple border, and again, this is only 14 inches, can do for a dress. And so you can make this any length and just cut off a portion of the hand-dyed selvage edge if you want it shorter or longer. But again, 45 inches is the maximum that you can have for this dress. And this is a 1-piece dress, front and back. So there's no seams here at all, just the darts. The second garment over here that I want to share with you, and I'm going to move this over. This is a fit for art jacket that I made, and I wanted to really showcase the Downton border plus the coordinating fabrics that we have that go with it. And so I used the Downton Copen Blue as the main portion of this jacket, and it is the Fit for Art Tabula Rasa jacket. And you can see here that the dense compacted vine starts at the hem of the jacket and then transitions up into the loosely designed motif, and then just a portion, a smidge of the hand-dyed portion of the design shows on the shoulder itself. I probably could have started lower on the vine area and not had any hand-dyed up here, but I wanted just a little bit to show that it was a border fabric. And then the sleeves are a violetta is the motif. So this is an all over design in the same shade of cope blue, but the difference in texture and design of the motif really makes the sleeve and the side panel look so much different, but yet not. It just looks like it's supposed to be there, which is wonderful. And the back of this jacket, again, so you can see the transition here from the tightly compact vine to the loosely tossed vine. And then the collar and facing going down the front is our Lady May design in Dusty Topaz. Dusty Topaz goes very, very well with our cope blue. And so that's this jacket. And I just think that the three different fabrics and the coordinates that we put together sometimes for a garment really brings them to life as well. We don't always have to make garments that are one fabric only, and this definitely showcases that. So I hope you enjoyed our introduction to the border batiks that we have in our Batik Rayon collection. And some of you might have worked with them before, but others have not. So I really wanted to take a moment to share those fabrics and how they can be used. So I just love them, and I think I have to figure out the next project I'm going to make myself with these fabrics. Okay, the last thing I want to share with you is, of course, it's giveaway time, and from last week, we did the display of the fall collection of our nuanced gradation fabrics. And so we are giving away that fall collection to a very special winner. And her name is Julie Ann Smith. I was gonna say Julie Smith, but then I thought there's a lot of Smiths out there. So it is Julie Ann Smith. And thank you, Julie Ann, for being part of our newsletter, email list, and our subscriber on our YouTube channel, and for all your wonderful comments. We really appreciate it so very much. So definitely take the time. If you haven't subscribed, definitely do that. And let us know what you think. Let us know what other things we can do with these border rayon fabrics and anything that you'd like to see. So until we see you next week, keep sewing, smiling, and sharing.